Life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes it breaks you. After a training accident left me paralysed from the neck down, I had to rebuild my body, my mind and my life. I'm Ryan Curtis, and every episode we dig into the chaos that shapes who we become. Before we get into the episode, it'd mean the absolute world to us if you could follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're currently listening to this on. For you guys, it's just a small click of the button, but for us, it's huge to grow the podcast, to get bigger guests on and have more interesting conversations for you. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Made in Chaos with me, Ryan Curtis. On today's episode, we have Jason Lear. Jason is a behaviour analyst, the organiser of TEDx Black Mountain, and he spends his time studying how people think, behave and make decisions. Jason, how much control do humans really have over their own behaviours versus being driven by unconscious patterns?
Very interesting question, and I suppose it's a challenging one in a way, because there's two elements about that, because some of it will come down to the individual. You know, we're all wired differently, and this thought that humans act rationally is a bit of a myth. We're quite irrational in our behaviours. Like, we buy things irrationally and things like that. I personally believe, from all the research that I've done, the impact of your environment is...
Our environment's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, I think it has such a major element on how it shapes our behaviours. Because...
Like between certain years, because they say 0 to 7 is very formative.
Yeah. Look, as young children, if you think of growing up, nobody teaches you to talk, nobody teaches you to walk. It's an innate thing in us, and we observe the environment and we learn from that, so we start to mimic the behaviours of those around us. And that carries through life to a certain degree, that we tend to mimic behaviours a lot, and we call them social norms. So we look around us, and what seems to be normal, we tend to present ourselves then in that forms of those behaviours. So the environment starts to shape the way that we behave from a very, very young age. And we would see that, and this is why you hear some stories around patterns within families, possibly around abusive and addictions and things like that. It's because at that such a young age, if I'm living in a home where there's addiction in the household, then I don't see that as not normal.
Yeah.
That's normal to me. That's a normal behaviour. So as I grow up, it's maybe very late in my life before I start to realise that isn't a social norm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In the grand scale of the community, that's something that happens in our household. So I'm starting to develop these social norms around that. And that carries into... from those sorts of behaviours right up into, I suppose, elite sports as well, as I'm sure you could testify to, that you were always a good athlete, but there was a point in time where you went into an environment that fine-tuned you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You were competing, you were doing well, but it was only when you got into the environment that stretched you and pushed you that extra bit, that fine-tuned you as an athlete. And this is why we see players, you know, gradually go from amateur level into professional levels into international levels. The environments are also improving. The environments are also getting stronger, and they're shaping those behaviours within there. And when I talk about environment, I'm talking about everything from its resources. From one of the big things you'll hear me talk about is what gets tolerated becomes the standard. And what I mean by that is that if you working within an environment and somebody comes to work late all the time, and the leadership within that environment tolerate that, that tends to become your standard. So other people will then see that as a social norm, and they will start feeding into those behaviours. So they'll start to mimic and replicate those behaviours. They'll all start to push the boundaries. Now, there are certain people that just aren't wired that way, so they'll always turn up on time and they'll always do their job. But the question
what
then,
would you say that comes down to, how they were raised then?
Yeah. I think it's conscience, it's their own self-will and, personalities, traits within them that they won't lower their own standards to a certain degree. But the challenge there is that you're not happy. You might still be a high performer to a degree in that environment. You're still not performing at your best because you're observing these other behaviours and they're having an impact on you. But realistically, most of those people are just looking a way out. They're biding their time, looking for other jobs. So they're trying to search a way out of that environment. And that typically happens in most, environments. One of the things I deliver a bit of training on behaviours, and one of the things we always talk about are values and how values impact our behaviours. But the problem is with values, they tend to be just a bunch of nouns that we stick up on a wall, which is teamwork, discipline.
Yeah.
And you can't observe a noun. It's just a descriptive. So one of the things we talk about is how do we turn those nouns into observable behaviours? So what we would take is take the noun and then add action verbs to them. So we say, right, if our let's for once say respect is one of our values in our business, then we would turn that into actions. We would say, so to show respect in our business, when somebody walks in the door, we greet a person when we first meet them.
Yeah.
Now I can observe that. That's a behaviour now.
Yes.
It's no longer a noun. So I can now give you feedback on the behaviours I expect to see as the leader within the group. So I can then turn around and ask questions of you. Well, look, our standard is, we've all agreed this, that we greet people. You didn't greet a person.
Yeah.
So you can start to hold people, and we can hold each other
Accountable.
collectively accountable.
Yes, okay.
And that's one of the things. But then there's that thing that our individual values, if they're so far apart from the organisational values, you're always going to have problems.
Yeah, 'cause you're just down the line.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If you're somebody that is very invested in the environment, working for an oil company isn't a job for you. You know what I mean? It's just not working out.
Yeah.
And when there's separation in there, that can always be a challenge, because then that starts to filter down into your belief system. And our belief systems are one of the biggest challenges to performance. Because if I come into an environment and I believe you're getting promoted because you're a mate of the boss,
Yes.
that is affecting then my attitude to the job. So then I decide, do I turn up? Do I do my job properly? And that's the same in sport. If I believe you're getting selected because of a certain, it's bias within the group,
preference.
that will affect my attitude, how I perform, how I turn up, how I train, how I play. And they're the sort of things. So it's getting that triangle right. One of my phrases in my training that most organisations and most teams are balancing on a fragile tip. The triangle's upside down. Balancing.
Yes,
because they're only looking at values. They're not looking at beliefs and attitudes and how they all compound and impact the overall performance of an individual.
Would you say, like, because obviously you've heard in sport, like you heard a very famous one is Alex Ferguson and how he controlled the culture at Manchester United.
Yeah, I think straight away his behaviours will tell you a big story. So I'm not a Manchester United fan, so I'm not saying this because I think he's great or amazing at what he done. But one thing about Alex Ferguson was just observe, think of, anybody, no matter what sport you're in, think of one thing that he used to do. So when the team were playing well, win a title, you wouldn't have seen him. You'd have been straight down the tunnel, beelined for the tunnel. When there was problems within the team, if they were losing, he would have caused controversy. He'd have done something in a press conference. He'd have been controversial, put himself in front of the team to deflect away from their performances.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I always say he was a true leader.
Yeah.
Because I believe true leaders, they stand in front of their team whenever the shit's hit the fan.
So you nearly was saying, like, he was willing to take the hit and all the backlash just so the team couldn't?
Yeah, so so he shields the team whenever things are tough, but he stood behind them when they won.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
You know what I mean? He just disappeared down the tunnel. You watch him win titles.
Yeah.
He'd have that moment of elation that we all get. He'd run on the field. But
it wasn't about him being the...
Within seconds, he'd been down the tunnel and let the guys just enjoy the moment. And that to me was truly, just looking at those behaviours of leadership, You know what I mean? And starting to learn from that, of that's how you should be portraying yourself to be a true leader. If you want to lead people, then what you have to understand is you have to back them when things aren't going great. You have to put yourself out there and take a bit of flack maybe and shield them.
What makes a good leader in your opinion?
A good leader, in my opinion, I think it's a combination of many things. But I think that what I'm saying there is about holding people accountable in such a way that there's fairness and transparency within the system. I think that's the key element to good, strong leadership. Because if there's fairness and transparency, that means there's good communication in the system. That you know why, if we're talking in the sports context, you know why you're not playing this week.
Yeah.
Because that might not be about you not being good enough. It might be about the tactics we're trying to apply to nullify the opposition. But if I can have that honest conversation with you, that I am making these decisions in secret and just selecting the team, and then you wondering, have you had a bad performance or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're second guessing yourself.
So that's your beliefs then are starting to, can you see what will happen?
Yeah.
Because of those values and beliefs and attitude system.
Yeah.
So if I don't pick you, what will happen is you as a player will start to make up your own mind why that happened. So you will start, your beliefs are actually your facts. They might not be the truth, but they're the facts that you're making up. And then what will happen is they'll filter out into your attitudes. So that'll determine how you turn up this week in training, whether you do turn up in training at some sport levels and things like that. So that triangle being strong enough. So as a leader, you have to understand the triangle and you have to understand how you get the best out of these people. And it comes down to fairness, that I don't care if you're my mate and we drink in the pub on a Friday night. When it comes to selection or it comes to the workplace, this is about the performance in the environment that we are here to perform. We've set standards and we need to hit them. And I need to hold you to account the same way as I would hold any other team member to account.
Yeah, now it is funny how what you're saying there, your brain runs away with itself, because probably my favourite book is The Chimp Paradox.
Yes.
You're familiar with it?
Yeah.
And it just talks about a lot about like what actually is the reality, might not, and is the truth, but you probably don't see it that way in your head. You know what I mean? Like, so what you just said there about Ferguson, like making a decision based on the team, and that's what he really believes. And it could be, in a way, a tactic.
Yeah.
You know, but all you heard is, I got dropped, so I mustn't be good enough.
Yeah.
And then you start to tell that story to yourself in your head, you know?
Yeah. It's like people maybe watch a couple of your fights and you had a particular trait or pattern to fighting, but you're coming up against a different fighter and you realise that's not going to work with this guy, and people start criticising you for not being yourself, your norm, what we are used to. But you're trying to solve a problem. This isn't
strategic.
Yeah. And you're making decisions in the moment, but we're all standing on the sidelines with our own belief system, criticising you for something that we have no inner-depth knowledge about.
Yeah, because it's funny, like it is, I completely understand what you're saying, because I've been in fights and my coaches are telling me what to do, and I'm like, I hear what you're saying and I want to do what you're telling me to do, but that I'm in here and it feels like it's not the right time to do it, or it's not the right, I need to go about doing what you're asking me a different way, because he's actually stopping me from doing that, but subtly with movements and stuff. And equally, I've been the one, because I've coached people and I'm shouting in and I'm going, why isn't this guy just throwing the jab? I'm asking him to throw the jab and he's just not throwing the jab. And then spoke to the fighter after and he's like, I understand you're asking me to throw the jab, it just, when I was in there, he was nullifying it with certain little, you know. So.
And that's the thing, is I always say, I would have worked in some sport environments in GPS units, where in GPS units, and I used to call them a blunt instrument, because the problem with that, it's just an outcome, it's a statistical outcome of things that have already happened. But that data in isolation of any video or observations of behaviour isn't telling me how the opposition are affecting those numbers. They're just numbers, they're just values. It's like punch counts in fights. That doesn't tell me how the opposition impacted what you could do.
Yes.
Because when you're in these, there's what we call entropy in them, you know, and there's so many random variables happening within the environment that you're trying to solve so many problems at once. It's very easy for us to stand there. And you know
yourself, like, you're trying to solve this, but at least I'm fighting. you're trying to solve these problems in milliseconds
Yeah.
when someone's trying to take your head off.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're trying to...
Yeah. And so it's those sorts of things. And when you're looking in the behavioural side of things, what we are looking for in certain situations, so in a sporting environment, we are looking at coaching behaviours and how they impact performance. So coaches shouting at you, what tends to happen in fields of coaching, and I studied this with some team-based sports, would have been observing how teams react to what the coaches are saying. So I looked at coaches that would be very verbal. I worked with a particular coach who kicked every ball, lived every moment on a football match, and he just shouted all game. And what I noticed was that players didn't react to good instructions because they were just all instructions. Because he was so verbal, they couldn't decipher what was a good instruction and what was him just shouting. And then looking at teams where coaches tend not to say too much, and then just put messages onto the park. And what you do find is that players react to those types of coaches, the ones that are more silent and making tactical choices and being verbal only when they feel they can have an impact in the environment. And we see this at amateur sport, you know, that you go into an amateur environment, you have coaches and parents shouting from the sidelines. And the truth is, all you're doing is creating confusion and blur for those people to try and perform.
Yes.
You're literally adding to their cognitive load. So we have a very small working memory in our brains, and once that's full, once that cognitive load's full, our performance will start dipping. You know what I mean? So if I'm trying to solve a problem there, I can hear 10 different people giving me 10 different instructions off the sideline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's that environment. So that's the challenges that we're trying to face with. And the problem is with young people, they're more impressionable. So you're a mum and dad shouting at you, you're trying to listen and please them.
Yes.
Whereas in the Premiership, those boys just blank that out. They're just crowd. They have no value on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know yourself in fighting.
Yeah, because you're at the getting to such a pinnacle.
Yeah.
It's like...
You can blank it out. Whereas if you're developing and if you were in the fight game and mum and dad or family members are there and they're shouting at you, you tend to start to listen a wee bit. Yeah. Because there's a connection.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's those sorts of behaviours, and it's being able to ask questions. How is my behaviour affecting this environment at this time and moment? And that's a big thing in terms of performance and getting performance out the other side. And that doesn't matter whether you're in sport or businesses. Behaviour is just behaviour. It's how we look at creating an environment and to shape the behaviours and allow you to perform in those environments. And there's a big jigsaw piece.
Because you say behaviour drives performance. And one of the things that I was actually thinking, what's the biggest behaviour pattern that you see that ruins people's potential?
Again, beliefs would have a big thing in that, right? So that part of that triangle is your own belief system getting in the way of
and
you
what would
performing.
like beliefs consist of? Just what you've been told your whole life?
Yeah, no, I think sometimes the lack of transparency and the lack of communication within environments can have that as well. So if you're not being told why you're not being selected, why.
Yeah, okay. Like if you're just like going back to what we were saying earlier on, if you allow your brain to make its own assumption on why things, but that might not be the truth.
And expectations has a big value on this. So there's a really interesting piece of research done a long time ago, 50s, and it was by Robert Rosenthal, and he carried a bit, and he had rats. And actually what he did was 2 groups of rats, put them in a basket, and sort of said to a group of researchers, these rats, you're smart rats, these are stupid rats. I want you to put them through a maze and train them. And so the smart rats get through and the stupid rats struggle to get through. And he done the same thing, then went into a school environment and repeated the exercise, saying, I can predict who will be your next best students. Not the ones that are the smartest at the moment, but will be the smartest in a year's time. I have this test. He carried out the test, and lo and behold, the result was what he had predicted. And then when everybody said to him at the end, so what was the test? He says, I just randomly told you.
There wasn't, because
there was no test.
Study, yeah.
And they went, well, how is that? He says, well, what happens is people raise the expectation you have of them.
Yes.
And I think that is a massive
so intriguing
factor.
that, because I know the study you're talking about, and I remember thinking, when I seen the results of it, I was like, wow.
I can remember, I was coaching rugby at the time, and I can remember going, after reading this research, I can remember going on a coaching session, and you know that thing where I started to do started to reflect and go, hold on a minute, Jason.
Yeah.
This is a hard look in the mirror. Because what I'd started to do, I had realised I was spending more time with what I thought were the best players.
Yes.
And see the players I didn't think were getting selected this week. I'd throw them a ball and say, go and have a wee pass about over there. So my responsibility and accountability to them was totally being negated because I had the expectation that these were my best players.
Yeah. And then equally in the study, that teacher was getting told, oh, these are the guys.
Yes.
So he focused and thought,
Hyper-focuses.
you know, it's
so what happens is you'll hyper-focus on the people that you think will get you results.
Yes.
Because remember, there's an element of selfishness in this as well.
Yeah.
That I'm choosing you because the reason I'm coaching sport is because I also want to win.
You're going to get your name elevated in some way.
And all that. So it's same in the business. The reason I'm the boss of this business or the leader within this business is to elevate me and my status as well as my team. So I'm going to start giving jobs out to people I think are the best, not who are the best. So my cognitive biases and my biases about people are all being fed into this process. And the problem is, if I'm a late entry to your team environment, that there might already be a strong click within the environment anyway. So I join an environment and I start listening to the social norms. So you start saying to me, oh, Jason, watch him or her.
Yes.
And that's all now creating heuristics and biases within that.
Yeah. Because now you're
Yeah.
kind of like fixated on, oh, this is the guy I need to watch out for.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd only had to been told that.
Yeah. And I've never made an assessment myself.
Yes.
So that's where I'm saying.
And then do you think your brain, kind of after getting told that information, do you think somewhere in your brain you start to flip a script and go...
Yeah, I'm very...
No, but I'm talking about for the average person, your brain starts to look for little things to prove that player is good.
Yeah. Well, if you once you've built a bias towards somebody, you will justify why that person's better than the other person constantly. You're always going to find the reason why you chose that person over that person, regardless. Like somebody else could come into the environment and go, well, that person I believe is a better player than that person, but I'm always going to justify my argument because I've been leaning towards them. So my own behaviours are that I don't want to admit my own mistakes. I don't want to show that I'm the leader. I don't want to be shown that I got my decisions wrong in this environment. Where the truth is, leadership is to accept that I've made mistakes.
Yes.
To accept I maybe got that wrong.
Hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot around how our own behaviours are being shaped. So I think a lot of what I'm talking about is taking long, hard looks in the mirror at yourself and having questions about what you're saying and doing in an environment and how you're creating that environment. I have this flow chart that I use, which just makes sure I ask the right questions in the right order. And it starts with expectations and we work our way through the flow chart. But then we start to get down to the stage of, are we rewarding the behaviours we don't want to see? And what I mean by that is that if I'm allowing you to get away with poor behaviours, then I'm actually rewarding you.
Yes.
I'm not holding you accountable, so I'm rewarding you for the behaviours that I don't want to see.
Basically just saying that's okay.
Yeah. And it's things like that. So you get into these patterns and when you start asking these questions about rewards and things like that, and you're going, well, if I held that person accountable, that person doesn't repeat the same mistake.
Yes.
Whereas if I allow that person to get away with that, these people are going to look at that and go, well, that must be the standard.
But you're setting the standard then, if you know what I'm saying?
What you tolerate becomes the standard.
Yeah.
You can write whatever standard you want up on that wall. But what you tolerate becomes the standard. And the easiest thing to look at that is people's behaviour in team sports towards referees.
Right, okay.
So if you think in rugby, referees do not tolerate back chat.
Yeah.
Only the captain's allowed to speak.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to the referee, or he will address it, or you're looking at yellow cards. And you tend not to get huge amount of back chat to referees in rugby. People just won't challenge a referee.
Right. And is that kind of in the culture of rugby?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from very early stages, what happens is the referee has the right to match teams down the field. So if you start talking to a referee and he's given a penalty and you start giving off because you didn't think it was a penalty, he'll walk you 10 metres. So he'll take the penalty from where it is and walk you another 10 metres and go closer to your own try line until you shut up.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've seen teams lose up to 20, 30 metres maybe. So it's mostly usually 10 metres and everybody shuts up then.
Yeah,
because what happens is the rest of the players then start holding you accountable.
Yes.
Shut up with you. So then they don't tolerate it. So it becomes collective accountability starts to kick in there. Whereas in football, they don't address it. So it's tolerated. So it's now become the standard.
Yes.
And people say, well, how do you stop that? Well, you first have to stop tolerating it.
Yeah.
You can sit, the standard written up there is you shouldn't be talking back to referees, but that's not your standard. That's just a sentence on a piece of paper somewhere that we are not reinforcing.
Yeah. It has to be reinforced and it has to be observed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, and that happens, and you can take that scenario and drop it into a business, into any other sport. What's tolerated becomes the standard. Standard is, if you write stuff down, it's just text.
Yes. Until it's put into action. What's like a behaviour that people that you kind of see that people think is helping them succeed but is actually holding them back?
Being defined what other people think of them.
Right, okay.
I think that, listening too much to what other people say. It was very interesting. I was on a podcast the other week and my wife says to me last night, oh, look, there's a really funny comment there. And it was somebody talking about my accent. Look at this fella, he has about 7 different accents. And I think it's obviously because of coming from Wales originally and living in the north that I have this really hybrid of in and out of different accents. And I says, I don't read comments. And she went, what? And I says, well, I don't read the comments.
Yeah.
I don't go in there, and people might be saying really nice things, and I value that to a degree. But what I've learned is that you start digging into comments. If people start saying bad things, you start to become defined by the one comment that is negative and not the 10 comments that are positive. So those behaviours of letting other people feed your energy is a really...
I know, but it's a real human thing, isn't it? That we would get 100 comments that's positive, but then we'll just focus on the one negative comment.
Yeah, and I think... social media in itself is a behavioural science tool, was designed, you'll hear me speak about this on numerous, whether I'm training or on podcasts, you always hear me talk about this, that our mobile phones are designed, if you go into a social media app, you just have to look at it, it gives you on random variable reward system, where what that means is it's like a slot machine. So you spin, and then you get a win, and then you get a loss, and then you get a win, then you get a loss. And the idea of that is that you keep spinning. You know what I mean? It's like a bottomless bowl. There was some research done on this. The guy that actually created the bottomless, what they called the bottomless scroll, had studied a thing called bottomless soup bowls. So we wanted to see how people would react, whether they felt full by filling their soup bowl from the bottom. So the level never went down. To see if they'd eat more, see if they ever got satiated. And whenever they realised people were eating twice as much, 3 times as much, because they couldn't get satiated, because the level of the bowl wasn't going down. So what he'd worked out then is bottomless, so he called it the bottomless bowl, the never-ending bowl of soup. And he realised, if you do the never-ending scroll, so don't let it go to the bottom. Never let the scroll go to the bottom, it doesn't lock out. The people will just keep scrolling. So it was just a simple behavioural science trick of the way our brains are wired. We just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Yeah,
because I remember watching the documentary on Netflix. I don't remember the name.
Social.
That's the one. Yeah. And just remember thinking, whoa.
Yeah,
because it's everything is just so unconscious.
Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah. And it's crazy until you make the unconscious conscious, that you don't even recognise what you're doing.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of just playing with dopamine fixes within the body. We get satiated by things, and they've worked out how to satiate you. And the thing is with dopamine, if they feed it in short bursts, you become more addicted. So I talk about, we're in this world at the moment of pure addictive engineering. Everything's been designed to make us addicted. It's if you think of your social media apps and the way that we use them, foods, the way foods are being designed, ultra-processed foods are just designed to make us addicted. They're not designed to make us healthy or nutritionally well. It's just simply just, can you eat more of it? I want you to buy more of it and just keep wanting more of it. You know what I mean? And ultra-palatable foods was the word that was used originally. Then Chris Van Tolkien reframed it as ultra-processed foods, where literally it's just edible stuff is the easiest way to describe it. It's not even foods anymore. You know what I mean?
It's obviously when you, back in the day, when you looked at the back of a packer of whatever,
ham even.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I
now
mean?
it's like the ingredients in it is like...
If you think of the amount of ingredients in a packet of ham and you're going like, it's just a slice of ham.
Yeah, so how can it be? Yeah.
So where is this coming from? You look at things like Pringles, you know, being 5% potato when you're going, so what's the other
Yeah, so what's it?
You know what I mean? I can remember there was a young fella, I was working on a project and a young fella had rocked up with a tin of chicken meatballs, right, out of a tin. I can remember looking at me going, what the hell are you eating, young lad?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, chicken meatballs. And I
was
looked
this
at
in the rugby?
This was actually so I was working on a special needs project, right? For young people. And he'd rocked up with this tin and he wanted to stick these in the microwave. He's going, how do you put these in the microwave? And I'm looking at this tin going, what the hell are you eating? And I looked at the back of it and it was chicken meatballs and it said 15% chicken.
Whoa.
And I'm looking at this thinking, what the hell are you putting into your body? You know what I mean? And people, this is now becoming normal in society. And like I say, it's that concept of, it's just about making us addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
It's about selling more, getting more from us.
Well, everything's very like, today especially, is more transactional than ever.
Oh, yeah, it does. It has become I talk about this thing, so in behaviour, and like when I start to break behaviour down, I spoke about that value system, but we look at the value altering effect and the behaviour altering effect of everything. So what we try and understand is why that behaviour might happen and how, because in certain circumstances we want to change the behaviour. It's not always about just looking at behaviour and saying, well, that's why that's happening. We want to create those environments for high performance. We also want to understand how we would change behaviour in somebody that maybe is challenged by eating habits and things like that, or have addictions. So one of the things we look at is the value altering effect and the behaviour altering effect of things. So value altering is the bottle of water is the easiest example. It's a piece of research carried out by two researchers, Longthorne and McGill. What they'd spoken about was that a bottle of water in itself at this time and moment is not valuable to me. But if I decide to dance around this room or jog on the spot, that water is starting to become more valuable because I'm developing a thirst. So there's a value altering effect now starting to happen with the water. So it then alters my behaviour, that I then start looking for water to quench my thirst. Once I've drunk the water, that then my value has been satiated. So then it then negates the need for that. So I put the water down and go back to equilibrium, if you know what I mean. And this starts to happen in anything that we do. If you start to understand that concept, there are some nuanced elements to that as well and factors within there. But what I'm saying is that if we had a £20 notes here at the moment, me and you would think it's the same value to us both, but it's actually not. It's just a denomination of currency. But I might decide to go and spend that £20 with my granddaughter and buy ice cream. So it alters my behaviour. The £20 has altered my behaviour to do something. But for you, you might be going on holiday. So you're going to stick it in a bank account. So it alters your behaviour to save.
Yes.
So it's looking at this and saying, well, if we have people that don't save in society, how do we put something in there that alters that behaviour? How can we change the value of saving to people? So what we need to do is change the value of things because we get confused sometimes between what you value and what's valuable.
Yes.
So what you value are those innate things in you that you would hold true to. It might be honesty and things like that. But in the moment, what's valuable is very different because by right, you might be an honest person, very honest person, and you value honesty till your heart's content. But the truth is, you've just lost your job, you've no money coming in, you're starving. You might have to go and steal a bit of food.
Something. Yeah.
So while that is still your value, what's valuable in the moment is very different.
Yes.
So but you can use that from a positive perspective as well. How do we create things to make them valuable in those moments that we need them to be? So if you think in sport, this is where I talk about, I'm playing football. I've asked my winger, I want you to stay tight to the line, because what we want to do is spread the back four out. We want to keep them wide. So I don't need you to have the ball, but I just want to keep you so that we keep a bit of width, so they have to defend wide, which creates a bit of space in the middle. Now, if I'm not having that conversation, but I just say to you, I need you to stay wide today, Curtis, on the left-hand side, just hug the touchline for me. But Curtis has noticed I've been picking a particular player who seems to be on the ball an awful lot. And your belief system says he's getting picked because he's in contact with the ball all the time. From a behavioural altering effect is, now what's happening to you is, you're seeing the value of the ball is more value. Can you see what's happening?
Yes.
You're connecting the value of the ball to selection.
Yes.
So it's now going to alter the value of that ball to you. So you're going, I need to be on the ball. So then you drift off our system to go and access the ball. Now, that's not say what we want to create robots, that you don't do things instinctively. What we're saying is it should still be for the right reason.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be going in there just because you think my decisions are being made based on that. So if I'm a good leader, I have that conversation with you.
But I think that a lot of the time that's like a breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. It's very much around how well we have those hard conversations with people. It's like TEDx with me. And the one thing I always say is I've had to have a lot of hard, challenging conversations with people who maybe just aren't ready for TEDx yet, or at this stage that they talk doesn't align with what we're doing this year. And I only say to people is, all you can do is show up. All you can do is bring your best. And last year, we had a lot of people. We had 10 people rocked up at an event, and they made our job really, really hard. And we had to pick one person out of them to go on the TEDx stage. It was a competition, and we chose the one person. But you're happy to justify that to the rest of the group because they made your job hard. That's all you asked of them, was to make your job hard. But as a leader, then you have to turn around and tell them, this person was chosen because of X.
X, Y, and Z, yeah.
Right?
Not just they were chosen because they were better than you.
Yeah. And it's all about those alignments and having those conversations, being transparent with people. You'll hear me talk a lot about going into, I'm sure we've all worked, have you ever worked in a business where you'll go in and there's one department is really buzzing and lovely and you always want to be in it. And then there's the department, it's like a morgue, you stay out of there. That's leadership.
Yeah.
We call them microclimates within the same business. There's safety and people can talk and share and have so they're vocal and have conversations. But in this one, everybody's afraid of the boss. That's why you get these microclimates in big businesses, and that's behavioural.
If someone wants to change their life, what behaviour should they start with first?
Say behaviour, I think it's looking at a system of doing it rather than the actual behaviour. There's a really good framework. It was designed by the old nudge unit of the British government at the time. So they have a unit, and people don't realise this, that governments all around the world have behavioural insights teams sitting behind them. So nudge were a unit that were informing public policy. So what would happen is the government would come up with public policy, give it to the nudge unit, and they would make sure it got complied with. So they were the ones writing the messages and making it more social, right? They then sort of filtered away and became the behavioural insights team. And during that period, about 10 years ago, when they became the behavioural insights team, they formed this lovely framework, and it was called the EAST framework. And it was just then about how do you change behaviour? And it was based on 4 simple things, was make it easy, right? So no matter what, you have to find a way of making it easy. And then it's about making it attractive as well. How do we make this attractive to me? So you think of going to the gym. If people want to go to the gym, how do you make that easy? So you want one close to you to start with. How do you make it attractive? Then you have to find something that you want to hold up. So a trick I used to use a long time, and I still do it every now, buy a shirt that I like is too small for me.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And say I want to get into that. So that was that was attractive to me. Make it attractive to me. That was the way I got there. But there's multiple ways of making things attractive, and then put a time on it. So you then want to set. Make it social was the other one, and then you put a time on it. So make it social is one of the easiest ways, and James Clear talks about this as an awful lot as well. Like if you're trying to go to the gym, what you should always do, if you're new to it and you struggle, get a pal, get a mate, and agree to meet them at the gym. Because I'm happy to let myself down.
Yeah, but if
I won't let you down.
Yeah.
Humans don't like letting other people down.
Yeah.
So if I turn around and say, right, Curtis, I'll meet you in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? I think James Clear actually gave this example where he said, he was talking to somebody and they were they wanted to go for a run. And he says, and I said 6 o'clock in the morning, pissing down with rain. And he says, you wouldn't get up if it was for you, but because you knew your mate was stood out in the pissing rain.
Yes.
You went. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's so true.
Yeah. So it's those sorts of things. Yeah.
Why do people repeat behaviours that clearly make their lives worse?
That is the $1 million question, I think.
No, because it's just something that I was thinking about,
I think, again, I go back to the environment a lot of times. So eating, let's...
So say, the reason why, say, when you say about environment is, and some things that I do often think about is, there was a lot of drug addiction in my family, say for instance, and much like what you were saying there earlier on, I seen that from a young age, and it became normal to me. But then I've never done drugs, do you know? So I kind of...
You wonder why? Yeah. Look, it's those things that, like I said, I said at the very start, there's those elements where your own personality will help guide you down different pathways. And so if you have what we would class those sort of addictive or mimicking behaviours, so if you tend to copy what other people do, you fall down that road.
But what does that, why would one person copy something that someone does and another person wouldn't?
That's the question it's nearly...
Right, okay.
It's the one question that is so challenging to answer. We don't know. We don't know what causes that. Is it chemical imbalances? Is it we don't know why that is. I think a lot of it is down to how we build our own personalities, build connections, if you know what I mean. That we can build strong connections with other people and feel like we're part of something.
Yes.
Whereas other people have a disconnect, and that's where the addiction. So they start to mimic and follow. I can give you an example, a perfect example. As a young boy, grew up, made my mother give up smoking, and then as a 17-year-old took up smoking because I joined. The ironic thing was I joined a football team and all the fellas smoked. So what did I do? Right. I wanted to be part of the group. I was
it what you were saying that would have been like peer pressure?
Yeah, no, a total lack of self-will on my part, because I don't even know it was peer pressure. It was nearly like trying to fit into something that I just thought, oh, well, they all smoke, so I must have to smoke. And they all did. They were all, and I think I was the youngest one in the squad. I was a kid in an adult team, and I was quite impressionable. And I thought, well, I need to be part of this group. And I felt smoking was...
Yeah, kind of in.
That was the norm. So that social norm developed for me. And I got to 27, 20 years of age, and I got off them, and that was a hard thing itself, because that is an addiction as well.
Yeah, of course.
It's just, I suppose the consequences aren't as severe as some.
Yes, of course.
But, or can be, I suppose. But
long term.
But I come away from that. But it's like that, and I think of looking back on my behaviours, and I'm looking at that was a weak moment in my life that I just thought I wanted to be part of something, because there was nothing else missing. It wasn't that I was disconnected from it. I just want to be part of something that I thought was bigger.
Yeah.
And I was chasing that. I want to be liked. I want to be liked by these peers, accepted. And you jump into that environment. So, and I think that happens for a lot of people, is that trying to be accepted by groups, and whatever they are doing, you might mimic. So I don't know about your own life, but maybe you were at that stage, didn't need to be part of that specific group in that time.
A quick word from our sponsors, The Ink Factory. If you're looking for the best tattoo studio in Ireland, The Ink Factory in Temple Bar is one of the highest rated tattoo studios in the country, with over 5,000 5-star Google reviews. They're home to 30 expert artists, including award-winning talent covering every style from fine line to full custom pieces. They also offer professional piercings from just €25, including jewellery. So whether it's your first tattoo or your next one, you're in safe hands. Visit www.theinkfactory.ie or follow them on Instagram and TikTok at The Ink Factory.
You had something else that was that you were getting your out, if you know what I mean. You were getting away from it. So why do people do it? It's a $1 million question. And if we knew that answer, we would stop it, wouldn't we? In that sense, we would try and avoid it.
It's not, it's just sometimes like whatever way my brain works, and I understand my brain works like this, and a lot of other people's doesn't. But I just sometimes look at people doing something and I'm like, that's clearly bad for you. It's ruining your life. Why you not stopping it? Why you gonna continue to do something every day that's ruining your life, and you know that doesn't serve you?
And I think it's how we have a responsibility and a duty to these people to try and help them reconnect to something.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that these people have just become disconnected from society, from family, from whatever it is. There's just an element of disconnection in it. Now, obviously, there are illnesses and personality trait illnesses and things like that that make that a much more complex than what it sounds.
Of course, because I know it's not straightforward.
But there's elements to it where I do believe a lot of it is around community connection, finding your out, whatever it is you need to feel part of something. You know, I've had some very interesting conversations with a couple of people through even Tainan's program, the mental health program that he runs, and some of those young people there that have been addicts. And when you actually have conversations with them, you actually start to realise they've just found a connection. They start, you listen to them talk, and it's lovely to hear them talk about partners, about communities, about people they've connected with. And you're going, that's all that was wrong. You were disconnected from society.
Wanted to be a part of something.
And that wasn't there, so you just found... So what happened was you got your highs, your dopamine fix was coming through synthetic means, which was alcohol, drugs, and things like that, you know. So it's those sorts of things that you look at is...
What do you think that kind of human thing in us, you know, where does that come from, that we just want to be accepted and be part of something?
I think it's just... It's evolutionary, isn't it? If you think we were always formed in tribes, we always were tribes, groups. Culturally, we came up from tribes, so there was always an element of acceptance. You start to look at the animal kingdom, and I think it's sort of there as well. You know, you look at the alpha male within the chimpanzees, and that's a very interesting thing. There's a gentleman, I can't think of his second name, Franz Wahl, is it? He does a lot of research on apes, and he's some very interesting stuff on, we think of the alpha male within the chimpanzee kingdom as being the strongest. Very often they're not. It's actually the one who gets protected. So if you actually, we always think of them as the strongest, and in some circumstances that is the case, but some alpha males will survive because other monkeys protect them. Other chimps, if you actually watch, so whenever they're not the strongest, but they're the most community driven, they're true leaders, so they get protected by the rest of the group.
Right,
so so there might be a stronger male, but when he tries to attack him, everybody gangs up on him because he's strong. And so it's very interesting when you start to look, because we've been built on this illusion the strongest is always the alpha, and it's not the truth.
It depends, doesn't it, in certain things, because I assume, now I could be way off on this, but I assume in packs of lions, the alpha is the strongest. But
elephants, the alpha's the female.
Right.
So
and sharks too, I believe.
Yeah. So it's just about those elements of, and this is what, you know, terms like alpha just get absolutely destroyed because what we think of it as is that fellas going around,
misogynistic,
and it's not. It was never designed to be that. It's just some people have hijacked the term.
Yeah.
But you look at that in terms of leadership within a group. Where does it all come from? And I think it is just that evolutionary thing that we've always been part of tribes on being accepted and finding your tribe.
And when you're out of tribe, then it probably meant death.
Yeah, and isolation. And you think if you become isolated from tribes, from your community, that's where those other behaviours are going to start to appear.
Like addiction and stuff.
Yeah, I hear a lot of stuff when they talk about, you see people homeless on the street and your comments, very flippant comments, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about. And I go, but the problem is what you might find with a lot of these, and it's not the case for everybody, and I'm not making this as that everybody follows this pattern, but I personally believe most people that have addictions on the street, that came after.
Yes.
I think they were on the street.
Agree,
I think they were on the street before the addiction.
Yes.
In a lot of cases. And the addiction is the coping mechanism, is my connection back to something. It gives me something with the alcohol. So we've all drunk alcohol, but they drink it in excess because they're on the street.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the homelessness and the isolation comes first.
Yeah, it was only, but it might have been, they only might end up homeless as an effect of,
you know,
because we were talking about, I had a guy who runs a homelessness charity in Dublin, Chris Gentman, very good guy, and we are talking about how, a lot of the problems in homelessness actually, it's much more deep rooted than, they've gone wrong so early on in their life to end up homeless is what I'm saying.
I think,
if we are trying to fix the root cause of the issue,
I would describe it as a lot of people are homeless before they're without a home.
Yes.
That they might be living in the house, but they're actually homeless. Then there's a lack of connection in that household. There's something missing that they end up without a home then.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start looking at this and reanalyzing this from different perspectives, that we're always operating at the outcome. We don't spend enough time at the input. We're always looking at statistics and what the result of something is.
Yeah.
And we're never looking. It's like the NHS. We spend so much time looking at how many people do you see in a day rather than how do we get people through the flow better.
Yeah. And as well as it's like prevent it.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening to a guy on Joe Rogan before, and he was trying to bring in this system in America. Obviously, the healthcare system over there, I've been there. It's not a healthcare, it's a business.
Yeah.
And I've seen it all. And how this guy was talking about, like, he wanted to bring like the likes of blood work into GPs and stuff like that, so they could actually fix the problem before it got to like where they were just trying to fix it when it was like basically too late. But it didn't go down well because it didn't make money.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's
essentially.
But I think we're drifting down private healthcare. I think we're gradually drifting down that way. Most of my friends are all paying private health insurance.
Yeah.
Because the system we've become so disenfranchised with the system that, and this isn't a criticism of the NHS, it's the system, the throughput, the flow, because the people in it are amazing. It's just that they can't get the flow through it. Do you know what I mean? It's too many, the old story, there's too much administration that even if you have a system where you have to get somebody from end to end. The problem is, to get from end to end, you might have to go through 3 different clinics because we don't know what's wrong with you at this stage. So clinic 1 is a bit clunky. We can't get you into it. But by the time we get you into it, we get you out the other side. Clinic 2 is really, really good. It's very efficient. It then fires you through to the next system that is then clunky again. So all we're doing is dragging people through to clunkiness much quicker. So you just literally push one piece of chaos into another piece of chaos. You know what I mean? Whereas what we should be doing, is saying, how do we get people out the other side so they're not coming back? The Japanese do it with the Andon code in the factories. Have you heard of it?
No.
So what the Japanese do so they invented in Toyota car factories.
I did hear about this.
What they'd worked out was that put an and-on cord. If we have a problem on the production line, pull the and-on cord, stop the factory, let's fix it. Because if it goes outside, it has to come back.
Yeah.
So the idea is so lean, you know what I mean, that get them out right.
Yes.
Our NHS is based on just it's coming back. It's not on getting them out lean and clean, as we call it. You know, get it out the other side. So they need a system where you pull through. There's a flow through. It's not a stop-start, stop-start.
Yeah, it just seems like it's more about ticking boxes than actually solving problems.
Yeah, it's more about that I've seen you, not that I've fixed you. I haven't solved the problem. I can, because I'm measured on how many patients I see, not how many patients don't come back.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a different system. And this is the problem that we're faced with. So we're looking at output, not input. And we do that with sport. We look too much at output, not input in team-based sports. And in businesses, we spend too much time at sales figures and not enough time at the inputs. How are we getting these results?
Yeah, it's crazy. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the TEDx Black Mountain. And just a question, it was like, after organising TEDx events, what separates a powerful idea from a forgettable one, in your opinion?
What you said there, an idea. So the difference, and that's what TED is built on, an idea worth sharing. And I go to a lot, you'll see me, because I go to a lot of events to listen to people's story and speaking. And I'm looking for TEDx speakers. And what I'm listening for is, do they have a story that can be framed as an idea? And what I mean by that is, we all have a story. We all have amazing stories that we can tell and share. And I don't care who you are or what you've done in life, that you have a story that a lot can be shared on a stage. And the difference between TEDx and other platforms is, we're not looking for inspiration, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
It will be inspirational in its own right. But what we're looking for is, what can somebody take away?
Yeah.
So the way I describe it is, when you're talking and when you're coming up with your talk, think of you talking and your words are appearing on a piece of A4 paper. And at the end of that talk, you're able to crunch that up and throw it to the audience, and they're able to go out and repeat it.
Yes.
So it's an idea that you can share. So you can actually frame it in such a way that it's a framework. It's a process that you've followed, that you worked for you, that others could get a benefit from. The story's just there to make it interesting and make us feel good about it. So the story is the body of it, but the idea, the through line that you're pulling through the story is something that somebody else could repeat based on what you've said.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. So that's what we're looking for TEDx. So you look at, somebody like Simon Sinek, who came up with that framework.
Amazing.
That was done. People don't realise, people think of Simon Sinek as being a massive TED speaker. He done that at a local TED, like what we're going to be hosting up there in Seattle, I think it was. He done a local TED, and it's now the most viewed. He's never done a TED. He done a TEDx.
Okay, right.
So he literally...
Because I love listening to him. He's amazing.
Simon Sinek is now the second most watched TED event in the world. So the most is Sir Ken Robinson. Was a school teacher. If you get a chance to listen to Sir Ken Robinson, he's talking about the creativity should be... spend a much emphasis on creativity as we do on Maths and English.
Right, okay.
In schools. Because he says we everybody's born creative, then we send them to school.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was what his talk was about. So there's those stories. So when I'm looking to curate those stories, it very is that I've found the story, and then I know there's a checklist in there that we can share with somebody. There's a process in there that I know I could take that from you, and I could try that. So I can walk away on that day with 3 or 4 ideas that I could say, I'm going to try them in my business. So I've now one for my personal life. I've one for a bit of resilience, and I've one for my marketing campaign.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
amazing.
That you have those tools that you walk away from. So that's the big thing for me.
And have you ever heard like a story that's kind of changed the way you look at life?
I think one of the best TEDx, I can't even pronounce the lady's name, Shimanda Inogi, I think her name is. And she tells a story on TEDx. I've shared it with you in an email, and it's the one I would invite everybody to watch it, called The Single Story.
Okay.
And what she talks about is we all grow up with a single story. And she talks about her experience of going from Nigeria to America to study. And like, to cut a long story short and not ruin the story for anybody that wants to watch it, is that she stood in a dorm and the American school kids go in, "You're amazing. Like, where did you learn to speak English?" And she went, "We speak English in my country." But because she was culturally different colour, wore different clothes, that they had grown up with a single story of what an African person didn't expect them to speak English. So we all have these single stories that we've grown up with. And I suppose you could say about that about Northern Ireland. People are growing up on the divide with a single story.
Yes.
We're not looking at the other person's story. And I think it's one thing that I now, when I get into conversation and challenges, what I learned from that story is, for me to be right, you don't have to be wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I'm now at the stage where I want to learn and just understand what other people's story is. It doesn't mean that I have to totally agree with it.
Yeah.
But I don't also have to. I don't have to disagree in the way that I have to make it vocal to you.
Yeah, because I love that. I don't know who said it. That what you just said there, but it was like, one of the philosophers said that, and it was that might have been. I don't know, but I remember saying what you just said there, and I was like,
and I think it's so important.
But that's so true, though. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, and that's one thing that I will kind of pride myself on. As I got more mature, I'm like, okay, I understand that I think I'm right in this situation, because we all do.
Yeah, we're all right, aren't we?
Yeah, of course. But let me see what the other person is saying, and let me step outside my shoes and come at it from their perspective, and see what way it looks from there. You know what I mean? Because just like what you just said there, it's too many people are like, get protective and go, "No, I'm right."
Oh, there was a point in my life I would have argued with you black was white.
Yeah. I was very like that when I was younger.
And I think, as I say, as times evolved, I got better at that, going into different roles within business and within sport. But the truth is then that story, when you listen to that lady's story and really you start to equate that to what we learn about wars around the world, that we're only listening to one side of the story.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We're getting a look at what's happening in the world this very day. The narrative's being spun that one side's good and one side's bad. And is that really the truth? You know what I mean?
Well, like, we were actually talking about in the car on the way up. It's certain countries are able to spin certain narratives to make them look like the good guys.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like through Hollywood films and, if you had to just look at it, you'd be like, oh, they're the good guys. But then when you do a little bit of delving into their actions and what way do you know what I mean?
I think World War I, World War II, it's as if everything we done in killing people was good killing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what they were doing was bad killing.
Yeah.
And you're going, no, none of it.
None of it is good.
Was good. But then this fact that we think that we have never done anything, like our soldiers in wars have never done anything bad. And you're going, like, that's not also true.
It's like, your soldiers have killed children.
Yeah. And I'm going, like, this is so it's that. And again, that's this concept of, if you say something, so this falls back into behaviours as well, that if we say something and repeat something enough, it becomes the truth.
Yes.
And this is where social media is very dangerous. And I use this term to explain this to people, because we all know the term jack of all trades, master of none. And we've been taught to learn that means you should never be a master. You should practice on one thing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing multiple things. Now, what if I told you that is the biggest lie ever in terms of sayings? Because the saying is, jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than one.
Yes, I remember.
That's the true saying.
Yeah.
So the true saying was that you should diversify. You should have multiple trades, not be a jack of, not be a single.
Saying that because it got lost along the way somewhere. Yeah.
And you're going, like, this is somebody's took that and thought, oh, those first two sentences say great. I'm just going to turn that into a saying. And it's just stuck. It literally stuck because people kept repeating it. So it became the truth.
Yeah. It's it's crazy for like what you're saying. Like, that became the narrative then.
Yeah. And that's happening with most things around the world at the moment on social media. You just fire it out there. Nobody fact checks, nobody cares. But if it gets repeated, rinsed, we start believing it.
Yeah. Would you say organisations invest heavily in training, but behaviour rarely changes afterwards?
I think this is the problem. We spend so much money on knowledge and very little on behaviour change.
Right.
Like, in the early days of what I done in training, I was going out and training people and started to realise it was actually a piece of research. I was reading a piece of research, and the piece of research was about an organisation, big supermarket chain in America, and what they were trying to do was get us to use contactless payments more often. And they started to use poster campaigns, and what would happen is when you got to the till, people see the poster, and it increased the amount of people using contactless payments. After a period of time, that had risen by a nice percentage. They decided to take the poster campaign away. After a couple of weeks, boom.
It went back down.
It started to dip very, very considerably. And I started to look at that and I went, I'm a poster.
Yeah, right, okay.
I'm going into these companies and we're seeing benefits in the short term, but then it dips.
Yes.
So what I realised was what I was trying to teach wasn't knowledge. What I needed to do was create posters within the environment. So I flipped my training from giving you knowledge to giving the people the skills I have to apply it in their environments. So go in with those. I talk about these frameworks. So giving you a framework and a tool, give you a toolbox of about 4 or 5 frameworks that you can apply in your business to change the behaviour. So,
and would you have done that to the whole company or just to the boss?
So usually the leadership team.
Okay.
Because I would have tended to been in with the operatives, and then the leadership team didn't know how to keep it, sustain it.
Right.
Because
okay.
I disappear then. So then what I realised was, no, I need to train the leadership team on doing this. And it's very much now around looking at behaviours. So give you some examples of this. That one of the things I do in the training is show you a picture of a urinal. And people go, what the hell's going on here? And I then talk about an airport that had a terrible problem with men peeing on the floor. It was the only way to describe it, that they called it spillage, but men just not aiming right. And the airport was known as Schiphol in Amsterdam. And what the behavioural scientist said, come in, had a look at it, and he went, I'm going to put these stickers on the back of all these toilets. So what he got was a fly. Put a sticker of a fly across all the urinals. And it reduced their spillage by 18% and reduced their cost of cleaning by 8%.
No way.
Right? So just a behavioural, because he says men are stupid. They'll try and wash the fly down the sink.
Yeah.
They'll stop peeing on the floor. And it worked. And then there was a group in Africa created a thing called the Hope Soap. And what they realised was there was a lot of disease in Africa from people not washing their hands, young kids not washing their hands. So it was a lot of transferable diseases. And they couldn't get the kids to wash their hands. So what they done was created a bar of soap that you could see through, but there was a toy in the middle of it. So they called it the Hope Soap.
Okay.
And
yeah,
it
nice.
reduced hand-to-mouth diseases by 80%. In like towns, villages and towns. So you start to say, so this is the first thing we talk around, is showing you some impact, these are what we call behavioural tools. This is how you create a default environment that gets you the actions. So what we're trying to teach these leadership teams is that if we can create the environment to get the default that you want, which is the behaviours you want to see, then that is how you get behaviour change. That's how you get results. And one of the easiest ways is you want somebody to walk out a door a certain way, then you can create friction within the environment. So what you can do is put something in of them using an alternative door. So that is creating friction. And that happens in business.
And what, like, in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake that you see in leaders when they're trying to change the culture in a company?
They think telling people an experience is tantamount to competence. So they think, Curtis has worked here 5 years, he should know what to do.
Yes.
But I have never told you, I've never set the standard properly. Or the other thing is, in me putting you on a 3-hour training course, that's going to be enough to change you. It's just knowledge. I'm not shaping the environment to get the outcome that I want. So it's looking at how do we shape these environments? How do we create the prompts and cues?
So would it be like better putting systems in place?
Yeah. It's improving the systems and processes to get the actual result. So if I want you to do something, how do I shape that environment that it's the easy? Remember the framework? It's the easiest thing for you to do. I was with a company only last week and we were looking at their click-through rates on their website. And they had a very low click-through rate from people logging on to really anybody filling out, like the subscription form or anything like that. And when we looked at it, the problem was, when I analysed the page, I says, bring it up. And what happens is, you start to look at the website and within about 30 seconds, the pop-up comes up, what can we help you with? And it asks you for your name, your email address, and what I call the cardinal sin of asks, your phone number. I says, take that off there, you'll have a better click-through rate.
Yes.
And they went, but why? But then they won't be qualified leads. I says, you're not looking for qualified leads at this stage, you're looking for leads.
Yes.
Two different things. Because human behaviour tells me, I'm happy to give you my email address. Well, I don't mind sharing email addresses because I can manage that, I can control that, I can block it, I can put you into spam, I can get rid of you. When I hand over my phone number, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I have a specific email that I just use for
I'm the same.
when I'm in the airport.
For the spam.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do it as well.
Yeah.
So for me to hand over my phone number, there has to be trust.
You have to build it up.
We are now trying to get people's phone numbers before there's been any element of me building a relationship with you. I now want all your details, garner all your details, and I don't know what you're going to do with it. I just want to see, do you have something to offer me? So you need to build trust with me before I'm happy to hand over. But you're literally locking me out to your website 30 seconds in and then asking for my phone number to see more. And I'm going, I'm not giving you my phone number. Not at this stage. You haven't earned my phone number.
Yes.
So human behaviour. So certain people will do it because they see you as expert and they're going to follow you no matter what, or they're going to go down that road. But the majority of people are going to do what humans do and not trust you. They're going to be guarded. So they're just going to click out and go and find somebody else. So they'll research it on Google and find somebody else that does a similar thing to you,
but not
asking for your phone number, and they'll go with them. So you're actually losing potential clients based on that. So it's like those. So people will be. The problem is, you think of a business, who's being held accountable for that? The people in the office not converting the leads. Not that the friction's in the actual system that you've created as the boss, not giving them good leads.
Yeah, because they're going to go to them and go, well, why isn't there a click-through right here? But it's like the whole system is designed around not giving it because of the phone number.
So the problem is we innately want to apportion blame, right? But it's much easier to apportion blame to a person than it is to the system that they've created. Because that's my system. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's what we were talking about earlier. Really, so we break down. So we use a tool called the behavioural mapping tool. So we'll map out the flow through discrete steps. We'll then look at the psychological and physiological barriers or physical barriers to that. We look at the data flow, and then we look at opportunities to input or remove friction to get that behaviour I want. So at that stage, that's where I say, I'm putting that in there to get you to change behaviour. So I'll give you an example. A GEA coach was on a course with me the other week, and he gave me a problem of his players not hydrating. And I says, right, what's the issue? And he says, well, look, we're telling them they have to drink X amount of water. They're not doing it before the week. He says, because he says, I got them all to pee in these bottles and all. And he said, it was like 5 pints of lager. That's how bad it was. These are GEA players. And I went, right, what about then if we try this as a solution? So at the moment, we plotted out how they get access to their water. So you're telling them they have to drink more water. Now, the problem is we mapped out that journey. So you're the athlete. I've told you need to drink water. So you have two options. You can fill it up in the tap, but most people are going, I don't like tap water or whatever. Yeah. So you're not going to do that. Or you need a bottle to fill up. Or they have to go to the shop, get the water, and then drink it. But I'm going to repeat that process every day.
Yes.
It's just, so there's multiple friction points within that. So there's a lot of effort. It's not easy. We think it sounds easy in our head, but it's not easy for somebody who has a busy life and all that. So our solution was, we're going to all the players and we're going to ask them to put £3 a week in. He's buying a pallet of water, and every Monday night they turn up in training, they get their week's supply of water put in the boot of their car.
Yes. Yeah, because it's just
Remove the friction point.
Yeah. Because it's like, wasn't Jeff Bezos talking about it where on Amazon, like where he just made it, like where it was like you click a few things and then you press buy.
Yeah. And that's it. So that's what they noticed, the buying pattern, there was friction in it. And then that's why you get these offers of pairing things. Somebody else bought this with that. And I'll try that.
Yeah.
So they're just nudges. They're just nudging you to
clever
do things.
Isn't it?
So, and that's all just built on behavioural. So they're monitoring our behaviours and just then...
Even I remember reading something on the checkout aisles, they start putting the sweets and stuff at eye level with the children.
Yeah.
Because they knew when the kid sees it, it's like...
But there was a study done in a school, and they were able to get kids to eat healthier foods by changing the fruit from... So they had desserts, and they just swapped the eye line of them, and more people took the fruit. Anything that was in eye line, they went for over having to... So the friction was having to reach for things.
Yes.
So they actually went... Because humans are lazy.
Yeah.
We'll go to
but
the
you wouldn't
easiest route
think that,
towards
though,
things.
wouldn't you?
But they would just... So that's what they done was put fruit and things like that at more accessible, high levels. And people they're consuming more of it. And you're going, but that's mad. That sounds so simple, so stupid.
Yeah.
But that's what we talk about in behavioural science, is looking at the friction within your system. And it takes... First of all, that takes people and organisations to want to hear that, because that's the biggest challenge. We don't have problems in our business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You probably wouldn't be there if they didn't.
Well, my argument is you could be an absolute thriving business. Can we find another 1%?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
But so many people are just of the opinion, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Which I don't like that attitude.
I had a conversation with Paul True. Paul True was he won the World Series with South African Sevens rugby and won 14 titles within the Sevens program. And I asked Paul True why they're so successful. South African boys are successful, and because I was asking him, why are you guys listening to somebody from me based in Ireland? And he went, that's why we're so successful.
Right, because they never think they're above.
We're never.
Yeah.
We've never nailed it. We've never sussed it out. We're always looking for that another 1%. How do we take what we done last year? You're winning World Cup, winning World Series in Sevens. How do we now go again? Because the thing is, everybody's catching up to us. We now need to go again.
Yes.
And that's the thing is with behavioural sciences and patterns of behaviour, you could be looking at your own team's behaviour, you could be looking at consumer behaviours, and what you're trying to do is get this blend of both working in synergy, that you get a nice match between the two. And that's really what it's about for us, is trying to map those behaviours closer together, that we get customers happy with what you're doing, your team happy with what you're doing, and you get this lovely relationship where it works together.
Yeah, but I think when people get successful, not even personal and businesses, they just rest on their laurels then and go, oh, well, we're here. Yeah. But I think like the big businesses and the most successful people don't get complacent.
Oh, no. Always looking to...
But then sometimes I do talk about that. Sometimes even with my own self, that's a course, because I try to say, like, I'm happy with where I'm at and I'm proud of what I've done, but I don't want to be complacent.
And look, the other thing is with that is we only hear about Amazon's successes and Apple's successes. They've as many products sitting in the bin as they do that they're successful with. And that's what it's about. It's they're willing to experiment, makes them better. This is why they're so successful, these organizations. We can point to them and standards, because I wouldn't want to work for Amazon in terms of the way they treat maybe some of their staff, but in terms of a product and a service system, they've maybe got that pretty well honed, but there's a lot of failure in behind that.
Do you think that's just because like the best people are just so comfortable with failure and they just don't even care about it?
That is 100% what it is. The light bulb man, Addison, says he never made a mistake in his life. He just found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Exactly. Yeah, no, because that's what when somebody says that to me, like, I think I even said it at that talk, like, you know, fighting just made me so comfortable with failure.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you know, you're getting beat. If, like, you go out and you get beaten in a fight, that's what people see, but you're getting beaten in the gym all week. Do you know, and if you're not getting beaten in the gym, you're probably in the wrong gym.
Yeah.
Because you're only as good as the best person in your gym.
Well, I talk about this a lot, that we see under pressure, and this is where I talk about behaviours really being powerful. When you become under pressure, you fall to the level of your training.
Yes.
You will. So people will talk about.
Don't rise to the level of your expectation. You fall to the level of your training.
That's right.
Or your preparation, rather.
Because, you know, Pep Guardiola talks a lot about it, and that happens in business as well. Businesses fail or have moments of failure because they haven't developed their staff within training. So you think most scenarios you face in the ring, you've faced in training to a degree. There's going to be some nuanced differences.
Yeah.
But you've challenged yourself with boys that are bigger than you, heavier than you in different weight categories to grapple you, because you're going to have people that are better at grappling than you. You're going to have people, you know, so to do that, you maybe had to just use somebody that was bigger in your training gym because you were the strongest in that scenario at your weight class. So you have to find ways of getting outside. So I talk about constraint-led training. So what you're doing there is constraint-led training. You're using something that you're going to be faced with in the reality, possibly. So in work environments, you're working in a coffee shop. So you've been taught how to use the coffee machine. You've been taught how to use the till. You've never faced a proper nasty customer.
Yes.
You've never had to deal with that. So you will fall to the level of your training when that happens. So you end up telling the customer to F off, throw something at him, bug him out, rather than de-escalate and solve the problem.
Because the pressure got too much.
Because the pressure gets too much. And that happens. And so these are the things we talk about when we have conversations with businesses and organisations. What does your training look like? Because showing somebody how to do something is not training. Showing somebody is just getting them ready to do the norms of the job. What we have to look at are what are the potential risks to your reputation, your company, your organisation and your sales, and how do we train them to deal with that?
It's like the story of the ladders. Do you know the story of the ladders? Where, like, if you put a ladder and you ask somebody to step on the bars of the ladder when it's on the floor, everybody will do it, no problem. And they'll probably very rarely make a mistake and step through one of the holes. But if you ask the same people to do it when you suspend it between two buildings, that's when it's different.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah,
because now the pressure is on and now there's consequences.
Yeah.
You know, one wrong move and you're toast.
And that's the thing, I think, is it's when pressure rises, that tells you. And we can all teach and think we're developing behaviours, but it's when you get to that level.
Do you find, like, in your experience, you kind of notice traits or certain things in people that handle pressure better than other people?
Yeah, I think people that can take a breath, can just, hold on a minute, I need to think about this. But I call it thinking fast, slowly. So there's actually a really good book by Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow. I think there's a missing chapter out about thinking fast, slowly, because I talk about people like airline pilots and doctors and nurses. I think they've developed a skill to think fast, slowly. So this concept of thinking fast and slow is that fast is our reactive elements, our instinct, maybe to say things that we don't mean or react to situations. Our slow is when we're digging into our experiences, our memories, but it doesn't work that works in synergy. It's like energy systems. They work collectively, not in linear action. But the concept of thinking fast, slowly is that constraint-led training. So if you think of a pilot, when they get their driving license, as I call it, they start flying. They then return to the simulator, but they go to the simulator to understand how to deal with situations. So they'll engine flame outs and things like that. So once they've got the driving, they are then put in pressure situations to get their brain to think fast, slowly. So they're using get into those memories and that experience much quicker and get it to the front of my brain so I do things quicker.
So you think, like, it's usually the people who put themselves purposely into pressure-filled situations
100%.
and get comfortable with that?
Yeah. You think of you're in the fight game, you're training you with learning to think fast, slowly. Early in your career, you were making mistakes because the opposition would think just the top 1%, they were quicker than you. Not quicker with their hands, they were just quicker in their mind than you.
Yes.
They were getting into situations and you were a bit slow to react.
Yeah.
But the more you train, the more you develop, the more challenging your training become. You flip that.
Yes.
You become the one thinking fast, slowly. You were preempting what is going to happen in 2 seconds' time, not waiting to see what happens.
Yes.
So you were reacting to situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Much quicker. And that's through training. That's through the application of high performance training. You were doing constraint-led training and fighting bigger athletes.
Because you'd never be able to handle that pressure if it, like, you know, if you didn't put yourself there and it didn't become somewhat normal to you.
Yeah. So you go to the extreme of failure, which is pilots go to the extreme of crashing in a simulator. You go to the extreme of fighting somebody bigger than you that that it's nearly impossible to beat them because of size. But you're getting to that point where then when you're fighting somebody the same size as you, it feels a wee bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
The constraints removed.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with all that. But again, pressure isn't nice. And that's why I think people steered away from it.
Yeah.
You know, but like the old saying is, pressure is a privilege, you know.
Yeah.
And I do believe that, because if there is pressure on you, it means something's expected of you. But I mean, if you're not doing anything kind of out of the ordinary, then there's no pressure. You're just kind of like...
Well, I think that's what most companies, most businesses, most sports people don't, even good teams, they fail at the point of pressure because of what we're talking about there. It's that constraint-led. So that's one of our big things, is teaching people how to do constraint-led behavioural change training in any environment. Doesn't matter whether you own a cafe, you're in an airline, you're fighting, you're in a GA team. What does constraint-led training look like? How do we get these people to perform when this could potentially be at its worst?
Yeah.
Because then the other stuff becomes easy.
Yes. Yeah. You're just going to do it well then.
Yeah.
After studying behaviour for so long, what do you actually think separates people who change their lives from those who stay stuck?
Separate, I think, again, there's a few things there. Circumstance could be one in certain environments, is that a change of circumstance or having a support mechanism.
Do you think like it's like where it just gets so much and then they're like, it almost becomes like breaking point where it goes like, all right, I've had enough of this now.
Yeah.
And then it changes.
Yeah, I think is, you listen to people like in their 50s and 60s making significant changes in their life and you're going, like, isn't it? What was he doing for the other 50 years?
Yeah.
But it is, I think there's a point in people's lives that they get to a stage and they tend to work it out a wee bit, that the experience, like, you know.
Well, they do say you're only fully changed when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of changing.
100%, yeah. And I think that is it. I think there's an element of that, 100%. And trying to, the reward system that you were getting. So I always talk around, we are built on reward systems. So we are getting something. So in your fight game, the win was your reward, whatever, you know, and you fed off that. In certain environments, my job is my reward. Some people love what they do. They could be earning more money elsewhere, but they're actually working in an environment they have so much passion for. It's not about the money, it's about the reward, the feeling that they get from that. So I think there's times in life where people are just in the wrong jobs, they're in poor circumstances, or there's opportunities that they maybe didn't take, but they come to a point in their life where some people will listen to the right story, they will connect with the right person, they will see the right opportunity, that it just flips the switch.
Yeah.
It just literally is that one thing. We all have it where something in us or somebody around us just makes us change. Somebody calls us out maybe. And it just changes the way we think. And you decide to try something different. And you go, hold on a minute, there's something in this.
It's funny, isn't it, though, because you can't pinpoint what the exact thing is that makes you.
But I think it's different for us all, isn't it? That's what the challenge is.
Well, because everybody has different pain points,
and I think this is the thing, that when we talk about what I do in terms of behavioural science, we aren't looking at it's not so much the behaviour itself, it's nearly the irrationality of behaviour we're trying to understand. We know.
Yes.
You know, I can start after long conversation or a long look at stuff, I can start to suggest why things are going their way. It's understanding why that irrationality exists in the first place and trying to solve that problem is where the hard work is. So why do people go out and buy 3 pairs of shoes when they need one? Why do people, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just total irrational of all types. But you go, and that is because somebody nudged us towards it. There was, buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
But you only needed one.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's a really interesting thing with Kentucky. There was a guy, Jordan Buck, and he was a behavioural scientist at the Ogilvy. And what he had done was the campaign for Kentucky Fried Chicken in Australia to improve the sales of their $1 chip. And what he had done was said to the customer, our chips are only $1, but you can only buy 4. And it increased their sales by 56%. And that was because people were going in and buying 4 when they didn't even need 4 because they capped it.
Yes.
Because it was such a low value purchase. Now, that campaign doesn't work if you're selling Mercedes cars.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Course.
You can only buy 4. Well, nobody's buying 4 because it's such a high. But with low value purchases, when we get capped, we nearly buy the extra just to prove you.
Yeah.
Well, I got my 4.
But it's like scarcity as well, isn't it? It's like, why is diamonds valuable? Because you can't just go get them anywhere.
Yeah.
Do you know, when you think you're missing out or something, if you don't have them or they're deemed valuable. And
that's the thing, is whether it's when you see these messages, the way that they use the messages, whether it's FOMO, scarcity and all that, it's very much based on how that fits into this campaign. A lot of people try to use this, but they use it in the wrong circumstance. So they try to create reciprocity whenever it's not valuable enough. They try, you know what I mean? They just misalign the campaign. And a lot of that comes from experimentation. So when Jordan Buck created the campaign, he experimented with 6 different campaigns and worked out that was the one and then just targeted that. Whereas what we tend to do is just we choose one that we think is right. We don't carry out the behavioural experiment.
Yes.
So the big companies like Ogilvy, they don't go in and just pick a campaign and go, right, we'll use FOMO for that.
Yeah.
They'll actually use reciprocity, FOMO, they'll use all these they'll test them against each other, against groups, and then they'll just pick one. Whereas we tend to go, that sounds lovely, I'll take that one. I'm going to use that for my marketing campaign. And then they go, why does it not work? And it didn't work because you didn't experiment.
Yeah. Oh, Jason, thanks so much. That was a great chat.
Thank you very much
really
for having me.
Appreciate you for coming on, and thanks so much for your time.
No, brilliant. Thank you, mate. And
great chat.
It'd be lovely to see you at TEDx as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
that's a big
to
one.
it. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.